1. Kim enlists Ross as her new ally. When Kim crosses paths with Ross at the Woolpack, their conversation soon drifts back to their brief stint working together the previous year, a partnership that didn't exactly end on the best terms. However, things feel different this time. After recently stepping in to defend Kim during Chass's outburst, Ross has managed to earn himself a place back in her good graces. Never one to overlook an opportunity, Kim quickly realizes that Ross could be a valuable asset. With tensions rising and threats seemingly coming from all directions, she decides it's time to strengthen her inner circle, and Ross might be just the person she needs. In a bold move, Kim offers him a powerful new role at Home Farm, appointing him as Director of Operations. The position comes with clear expectations. Ross is to take charge of security, keep a close eye on everything happening around the estate, and ensure that Kim's interests are protected at all costs. For Ross, it's a second chance to prove himself, but also a role that comes with serious pressure. With so much at stake and Kim watching closely, the question is whether he can rise to the challenge this time, or if history is doomed to repeat itself. 2. Ross brings chaos to Home Farm. Ross's return to Home Farm immediately unsettles the household, and it doesn't take long for tensions to rise. Joe, Dawn, and Graham are far from impressed by his presence, especially when Ross wastes no time stirring the pot and pushing their buttons at every opportunity. His cheeky, provocative attitude quickly turns the atmosphere sour, making it clear that harmony is the last thing on his mind. Not everyone is against him, though. Gabby appears far more open to Ross being around, intrigued rather than irritated by his arrival. But even her more relaxed stance does little to ease the growing hostility among the others. Things take a darker turn when a heated confrontation erupts between Ross and Dawn, with Ross crossing the line and showing a more aggressive side. The clash raises alarm bells, prompting both Joe and Graham to step in. Disapproving and wary of his intentions, they issue firm warnings, making it clear that his behavior won't be tolerated. But Ross has never been one to back down easily. As the conflict intensifies, his presence threatens to destabilize everything at Home Farm, leaving the household bracing for even more drama to come. 3. Kim and Graham clash in a tense showdown. With tensions at Home Farm reaching boiling point, Kim and Graham finally come head-to-head in a bitter and increasingly personal confrontation. What starts as a heated discussion quickly escalates, as both of them become convinced that a revenge attack could be just around the corner, but neither can agree on who should be more concerned. Kim is quick to assert her dominance, warning Graham that he's dangerously isolated and has made too many enemies in the village to feel safe. In her eyes, he's the obvious target, someone who should be constantly looking over his shoulder. But Graham isn't intimidated. Cool and composed, he fires back with a sharp reminder that Kim's own behavior hasn't exactly won her any allies either. If anything, she may be just as vulnerable, if not more so, given the growing resentment surrounding her. As the argument intensifies, it becomes clear that trust between them has all but evaporated, replaced by suspicion and thinly veiled threats. With both sides on edge and convinced danger is looming, the atmosphere at Home Farm turns increasingly ominous. The question now is not if something will happen, but when. With storm clouds gathering and paranoia taking hold, it seems almost inevitable that darker, more sinister events are on the horizon. 4. Robert fears for the farm's future. Already Robert is left reeling when Joe drops a bombshell. He's planning to sell off the cattle herd at Butler's farm. The announcement comes as a devastating shock, especially as Robert had been under the impression that the livestock were part of the tenant agreement. However, a closer look at the fine print reveals a harsh reality. The cattle were never guaranteed as part of the deal. The discovery sends Robert into a panic. Without the herd, the farm's entire operation is thrown into jeopardy, putting everything he's worked for at serious risk. What once seemed like a fresh start is suddenly hanging by a thread. Desperate and overwhelmed, Robert turns to Aaron, making it clear just how dire the situation is. If the cattle are sold, the farm could quickly become unsustainable, leading to financial ruin and the collapse of their plans. With time running out and options limited, Robert is forced to confront the possibility that their future at Butler's farm may already be slipping away. unless they can find a way to stop Joe before it's too late. 5. Kerry faces the consequences at work. Kerry finds herself under pressure at the depot as her recent lack of focus doesn't go unnoticed. When Caleb steps in and orders Jai to issue her a formal warning, it puts him in an incredibly difficult position, one that quickly turns personal as well as professional. Caught between his responsibilities at work and their secret relationship, Jai has no choice but to go along with Caleb's instructions. Determined not to raise suspicion, he calls Kerry into the office and delivers the warning in front of Caleb, putting on a convincing performance despite how uncomfortable it makes him feel. For Kerry, the situation is both awkward and frustrating. Being publicly reprimanded is bad enough, but knowing that Jai is only doing it to keep up appearances adds another layer of tension. The whole ordeal becomes a test of how far they're both willing to go to protect their secret. Once Caleb leaves the room, however, the dynamic is bound to shift. Will Kerry brush it off and see the humour in the situation, or will the sting of the warning prove harder to ignore, potentially putting strain on their already complicated arrangement?